Rogue Shepherd, the Rogue Man. Go ahead, Rogue Shepherd. Permission to deliver elephant in the room. Permission granted.
We finna see what they do with an elephant in the room, where the local legends come true. That's not the way to combat it. I was in the womb writing double entendres, hooked to a machine like I'm Conway. Serve me a plate, tengo hambre. No, it is the
Good day, everyone. I am Chaplain Brown, or Rogue Shepherd, and this is another exciting episode of Elephant in the Room. And I first want to say happy 4th of July. I hope that you enjoy it and that you're being safe, and I can't wait to see you all soon. And the elephant in the room today is one that is really massive, and one that it will probably take several episodes to actually attack. And that is dealing with leadership. And we cannot talk about leadership without talking about character. So we'll also be talking about that as well throughout the next series of episodes. In addition, we'll be exploring the Army values and what it truly means. But let's sit back, relax, and enjoy this exciting video on leadership.
I know as like a father, you have a sense of, leadership and you need to direct and make those tough decisions. And obviously, you and Michelle battling through the ups and the downs together. But in terms of like the leadership perspective, obviously you're also accountable for a staff and
Right.
An administration that is looking, at you for guidance and leadership.
Right.
And, they can't compare, me and my locker room to the White House, but in terms of, the position I'm in and being the oldest guy in the locker room and having leaned into that leadership.
You're an old man.
I didn't say all that. I just said I'm the oldest. That can mean that I'm a young old, So in terms of leaning into that leadership and mentorship side, are there any examples of where, that materialized?
So first, I just want to pause before we even really get into the video. You notice that Steph Curry said leadership and mentorship. And I just want to elaborate that mentorship should accompany leadership. You cannot, in my opinion, you cannot be a successful leader without being a successful mentor. So both go hand in hand. And sometimes we think that, okay, I'm just a leader telling you what to do, blah, 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 motivating you to do this and that. But you're also a mentor. You're not just a mentor to that person on a professional side. A lot of times, especially in the military, you're a mentor to that person as far as the personal and family side. So let's just keep that in mind as we listen to Steph Curry and as we listen to our previous president, Barack Obama, just discussing the things about leadership. Let's get back to the video.
For during your first term,
Yeah.
and some tough decisions or some ways that you leaned into that role as president.
Well, one mistake I think a lot of people make is to think that you're just either born a leader or you're not. When in fact, leadership is like anything else; it's a skill, and there are a bunch of different ways to do it. I've known people who were great leaders, but were really soft-spoken and weren't always trying to seek attention.
So I just want to pause there and talk about leadership from what one of our previous presidents just mentioned, that it's a skill. It is not something that you just pick up and go rolling with it, or it's not something that everyone is born with. It's something that is developed. So if you're a new leader whether you're in, that sergeant, or you're a new leader in your family. You're married and you're leading your family. You're leading your children. You have these friendship circles and so forth that you're leading. Like, it's a skill. And one of the biggest things is you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but just remain teachable in those mistakes is one of the biggest things when it comes to growing as a leader, is remaining teachable, always seeking to learn. But let's go ahead and get back to the video here.
I think that the thing I try to communicate in the book, and I learned this, I wasn't always perfect at it. Number one was realizing that the most important thing a leader does is they set a tone in terms of culture of a team, whether the team is a basketball team or a business or an administration. And so what are the values around which you are organizing yourselves?
So let's pause there just one moment. It is one of those key things, setting a tone. And one of our previous presidents, President Barack Obama, once said here in this video, or saying, is that what values? What are you setting? Are you setting a tone that, for us, embodies the 7 honorary values, morals, principles that we all go to according to doctrine and regulation? Or are we setting a tone of we really don't care? What are you setting the tone as far as your family life? What are you setting your tone in your friendship circles? What tone are you setting as you interact with people? People that you may be leading, co-leading with, or even in some cases, and we don't talk about this a lot, but following. Like, are you setting the tone that you are a teachable person? Are you setting the tone that you're willing to do what it takes to accomplish whatever needs to be accomplished? And this tone is just important and vital in everything. So that's why when you see commanders, first sergeant, first class and all that, they come in setting a tone like, okay, this is what I'm about. This is what it means to me to be a leader. Here's my vision. Here's my this. Here's my that. And I do the same thing. Even in a church organization, you set a tone of what's going to happen, a tone of your leadership, what your leadership embodies, and what values that you bring. So let's go ahead and get back to the video here.
One of the things I'm most proud about during my administration is we never had a scandal. And the reason was that, I felt it was really important, if you have been elected to serve people, that's why you're there. And we were very clear to everybody who was serving, look, if you're here because of something other than service, then this is probably not a good fit for you. Right. If you're interested in leveraging this to make money somewhere down the line, well, there were a lot of other ways of making money than being in public service. If you're interested in the attention, well, position, whatever. You know what? Right now, we got a job to do. So I think being clear about what your values are, as an organization. That's
we talked about the last week, character.
The second thing, and this I know you can relate to, because there's a direct analogy in basketball or any team sport, is figuring out how do you help the people around you succeed.
Oh, absolutely.
Amen to that.
And so one of the things I learned in the White House and in my campaign, I'll use a campaign story as a better example. I would not have won the presidency if I had not won Iowa.
Okay.
Because that was the first big test, the first state where you have an election contest back in 2007, 2008. And, it was 98% white, a lot of rural voters. People didn't think that somebody of my profile could win that state. And the reason we won is not because I was the best candidate. The reason we won was because I trusted this amazing staff who knew Iowa, who were great organizers. They in turn hired a bunch of young people, many of them fresh out of college, or had didn't have a huge lot of experience, but we trusted them to go into these little towns, talk about what we were about, talk about healthcare and jobs, but also listen to people, find out what they believed in, what they cared about. And at the end of the day, the reason I won was because we had empowered this whole team of people.
There we go. So that leader, and like one of our former presidents saying here, is empowering other people in part of your team to do what they do best, putting the right people in the right positions. And we talked about that a little bit in the last video. Putting the right people in the right positions, putting those in that job that can do that job, right? And again, set the tone of that. Set that tone of trust. I'm going to trust you. Now, you may have your own philosophy and style for folks to earn that trust and so forth, and that's all respect to that, and continue to do that. But at the end of the day, ensure that the end goal is having trust. And trust is two ways. From the leader to the subordinate and vice versa. It's just not the leader or the subordinate earning the leader trust. It's the leader earning the trust of those who are following him or her or them. So to just keep those things in mind, that that trust, allowing folks to do what they do. Now you're going to have people that don't do their part, don't want to do their job, don't want to contribute to the team, and so on like that. You're going to have those regardless of the fact. And there are methods and so forth to either motivate or to begin to address the situation and maybe say, hey, this may not be the fit for you. This may not be the job for you. This may not be the position. This may, and all may not be the military for you. And that's okay, or the organization for you. And we just, as leaders, we figured those things out. But to put that trust and to empower others, because you cannot win and be highly successful without empowering your whole team to do great things and trusting them to do great things if they are the ones that are trustworthy and dependable.
To go out, and they made relationships and figured out what our message should be and brought people to the polls, or in that case, the caucuses. And I think that's the second thing about leadership that I always try to emphasize. If you can figure out how to empower the other folks on your team, so they're doing great.
Yes.
That's good for you. And by the way, they'll feel good about your leadership because they're seeing that you're invested in their success.
Yes.
And I think, the mistake a lot of folks make is to think being a leader is, how do I dominate and stay on top of other folks?
Right.
And if you have that kind of approach, your organization, whatever it is not going to be as good as it should be. And by the way, you're not going to have the same, tight bonds, so that when inevitably something goes wrong, you got other people to pick each other up.
So again, it is that empowerment. And when you empower people, they feel good about your leadership style and they want to follow you more. Without that empowerment, they're not going to want to follow you. That goes families, that goes whatever group, organization you're part of. Showing, say, your spouse, showing your spouse that you are a good leader of your family. This goes for both, for all genders and so forth. Like, you're all leaders in your families, and to approach it as such, because no one is going to listen to you or follow you if you're not empowering them, if you're not trusting them. In organizations, same thing. If you're not empowering, if you're not trusting folks, they're not going to feel good about your leadership style. And we're not an organization, or we should not be functioning off folks' feelings. But also feelings does play a part in things. So to just keep those things in mind, feelings are not the biggest priority when it comes to leadership. I would say definitely addressing those feelings is huge. But sometimes you just have to make the hard decision. You have to do the things that is needed to proceed forward. And that's okay. So just keep these things in mind of setting the tone. One big part, empowering people. Another big part. And I always like to leave it with leading by example. Reflecting those same things that you are portraying or want others to see in you. Be that. And with that, I leave you a scripture from my faith tradition. And this is coming from Philippians 2:3. And I'll read it off my screen here. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. So that is our episode on leadership, one of many to come. And I hope that there was some valuable information to be gained by this and that to be applied as well. Other than that, this is Rogue Shepherd signing off.